Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first session of the day on industry, urban and rural water requirements. I would like to invite our session chairman, Mr. Ganesh Pangare, Regional Director, Asia Pacific, IWA, Thailand. Mr. Ganesh Pangare. Now, may I invite our eminent speakers on the dais, Mr. Tom Williams, Mr. Vinod Singh, Ms. Chandra Ganapathy. Now, may I request our chairperson to start the session?
We have all the presentations up? At least we have the first, and we can see. Good morning, friends. It's a great pleasure. It's not a joke, but we were wondering how many people are going to be in the room, and we were thinking it's going to be 4 plus 1, my colleague, but I think it's at least 100 times more than that, I can see, and it's really great that all of you are there. As I said, we thank the organizers for inviting us for this program. As a chair, I'm not going to be really talking too much. My time is going to be really to referee these 3 speakers, see that they keep to time, and then let's try to have some questions to them, and if you have in the audience any questions. I think that's what I will try to do as my role. Just because I don't know how many of you know what the International Water Association is. Can you put your hands up? IWA? Okay, 2 or 3. Okay, then I think it's the best kept secret in the water sector, I think, at least in this room. The International Water Association is the oldest water professional organization in the world. It's 70 years old this year, Tom. And we have about 10,000 members across the world in 140 countries. Our executive office is based out of The Hague. And the regional office is based in Bangkok for Asia Pacific, where I'm based. And my colleague, Sushmita Mandal, looks at our India program. Again, I'm not going to be sitting here and giving a whole lecture on what IWA is, but I thought that since we are chairing, we came all the way. Tom has come from Hague, I've come from Bangkok, at least let you know what IWA is. We will be available later on. The only 30 seconds I'll take is that since only 2 hands came up what IWA is, many of you must have seen our products because IWA publishes about 14 peer-reviewed journals on water, which are one of the top high-ranked journals in the world in terms of citation index, like water policy, water technology and research. And we have about 14 of them. Plus, we print about 50 technical books on water every year. So that's a large part of the work we do. The second is we do the World Water Congress every 2 years, the Development Congress every odd year. We are partners for the Singapore International Water Week, Busan, etc. And also in-house we do what's called the Leading Edge Technology globally every year a conference. And we have about 50 specialist groups dealing with anything you want under the water, from desal to nutrient recycling to reuse to water efficiency. I'll stop here. If you ever want to know more, my colleague Sushmita is here, we are there, and we are always there to network and interact. With this, with further ado, I think Tom Williams, would you like to give a presentation? And I think what we will do, as I said, for the structure of the session is really 10 to 12 minutes per speaker, and then question answers, and then let's see how it goes. Thank you. Tom?
Thank you very much, Ganesh, for that introduction, also for introducing the International Water Association. What I'm going to present this morning is just to give you a bit of an overview of some of the thought leadership, the experiences, and the knowledge that resides within IWA. Our members are working at utilities, consultancy firms, equipment manufacturers, universities, for example. And what we've been doing over the last 2 to 3 years is trying to think through this urban water management challenge that we face globally, trying to understand what some of the trends and the best practices are and consolidate that into a framework. The framework is called the IWA Principles for Waterwise Cities, and today I'll give you a bit of an overview of what this framework includes to give you a bit of a broad understanding of how IWA is addressing urban water management. If we look at the megatrends globally, climate change, urbanization and population growth, all of them have some sort of impact on water, resulting in too much water in some places, too little water in other places, and polluted water. But also when we look at the response to those challenges and the opportunities, which are often, the discourse is often about sustainability, about resiliency, and about security, food security, energy security, for example. Water is emerging as a key component of those discourse. So water as part of sustainability, water as part of security, and water as part of urban resilience. Without water, you can't actually achieve those ends that they have ambitions to. So urban water management is absolutely critical, not just for sustainability in a city, but for overall resiliency and security. So the IWA principles for water-wise cities, there's 17 principles which we've captured in 4 levels of action. Those 4 levels of action are regenerative water services, water-sensitive urban design, basin-connected cities, and water-wise communities. And we also have 5 building blocks: vision, governance, knowledge and capacity, planning tools, and implementation tools. The purpose of the framework is not to be prescriptive. Each city is very different, has different contexts, different scenarios, and different outcomes that it's working towards. The aim of this framework is really just to capture some of the thought leadership about how cities can assess their situation, think through their challenges, and come up with solutions which are appropriate for their context. So I'm just going to walk through those 4 levels of action, including the 17 principles. The first level of action around regenerative water services is really focusing on water and wastewater utilities or operators or whatever terminology you use, and really trying to promote them as resource stewards. So utilities are not just providing water supply and sanitation services anymore. They're actually resource stewards, maintaining water resources, replenishing water resources, and extracting value from, for example, wastewater streams. So this is, very practically speaking, reducing water losses. It's reducing energy consumption from treatment processes for water supply and wastewater. It's reusing some of the nutrients found in wastewater streams and reusing them for other purposes. So the contemporary utility is all about resource stewardship. It's all about regenerative water services. Also, we're encouraging utilities to interact with other systems and other sectors. For example, the solid waste sector. How can utilities work with solid waste sector to generate and reuse nutrients from both of those cycles? The second level of principles is around water-sensitive urban design. Traditionally, water hasn't been at the center of urban planning and urban design. It's almost been an afterthought, which has led to retrofitting and not having fit-for-purpose buildings and urban planning. So how can we make sure that water is fully integrated into urban design and planning processes? How can we look at green infrastructure? How can we look at building articles to make sure that water is embedded within those designs, making closed-loop systems, for example? And how do we look at the materials that are being used in cities for buildings to make sure that they are actually water sensitive? The third principle levels is around basin-connected cities. Quite often we find that city officials and decision makers are quite detached from decision-making processes in the broader basin area. Specifically, this relates to water resource management. So cities, as large water users, as polluters, need to be more proactively engaged in basin management decision-making. So how do you actually facilitate that basin-connected city? How do you ensure that you can protect and mitigate risks associated to floods and droughts? How can you make sure that you can protect the quality of water resources? So increasing the amount of wastewater that you collect and treat, returning less effluent to the basin area, for example. And more we're seeing an increasing amount and severity of climate-related extreme events. How can we better prepare ourselves? How do we build resilience using water to be prepared for acute shocks and chronic stresses? The fourth level is about water-wise communities, and this is really about not just the water profession, but professionals at large. If you look at some cities, 1 in 6 people are working in a job which is somehow impacted by water. So you don't have to be working in the water industry to have a very intimate relationship with water at your professional level. So how do we empower professionals, whether they're architects, whether they're working in the food and beverage industry, how do we educate them and empower them to make decisions that are water-wise? We also need to work transdisciplinarian, so working across different disciplines and sectors, from engineers to architects to urban planners. How do you create win-win scenarios for those different disciplines to actually work together? Leadership is actually one of the most critical aspects of developing a water-wise city. You need leaders who can provide a compelling, realistic vision that people will follow. Citizens will follow, professionals will follow, and gives them a clear view of the next 10, 15, 20 years. So to support these 4 levels of action, we have the 5 building blocks. And again, these building blocks manifest in different ways in different cities, depending on their context, depending on the outcomes they're working towards. But critical to any city is that they have to have a vision. What is the water-wise vision that they're working to? If they're a city which is susceptible to flooding, perhaps their vision is related to mitigating, managing the risks associated with flooding. If they're a city which is in a water-scarce environment, then their vision is about alleviating those scarcity problems. Good governance is essential, and particularly when we look at city level, how do you align local governance with national governance to get the best out of those frameworks and those financing mechanisms that might be available, for example? It's imperative to have the right knowledge and capacity, as I mentioned, within water institutions, but also outside water institutions. Water is increasingly seen as an enabler and connector for other systems and other sectors. So how do you also sensitize non-water professionals, non-water sectors to water-wise principles? And as always, good planning tools, good implementation tools, whether it's related to finance, whether it's related to digital infrastructure, for example. Again, all of these are critical in cities, but manifest themselves in very different ways concerning the city's interests and desired outcomes. So just to give you a recap of the principles for water-wise cities, 17 principles over 4 levels of action and 5 building blocks. As I mentioned, this has been developed by a group of IWA members, really reflecting on some of the practices and policies that have been implemented, some of the thought leadership, which is more future-oriented. But we think this is quite a robust framework that enables cities to really think through how they become a water-wise city. And if we reflect on the Sustainable Development Goals, water is part of SDG 6. Cities has its Sustainable Development Goals in number 11. I really do believe that the progress we make on urban water management will really determine if and how we can meet other SDGs. If we make rapid, good, effective progress on urban water management, it will have implications on many other Sustainable Development Goals. That's how critical this urban water pathway is. One last challenge to leave you with. We're here in India, where I think 25% of the urban population lives in informal settlements or slums. In Africa, that figure is more like 50%. And in places like Africa, where there's expected to be huge population growth, particularly in urban centers, that figure is probably going to go up to around 2/3 of the urban population in the next 10 to 20 years. So informal settlements or slums and water management within that is critical. It's a huge challenge. I don't think it's an insurmountable challenge. I think it's a challenge that we have solutions in place for, but future solutions need to be developed. And I would encourage us, when we think about informal settlements or slums, to use the principles as presented to you here to really contextualize some of those challenges and the potential solutions they face. This will be the biggest challenge I think we face in the next 10, 20 years, how we get urban water management right in informal settlements and slums, because that's where big population growth and urbanization is going to occur in places like India, in places like sub-Saharan Africa as well. So thank you for your attention. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of the International Water Association, some of the thinking and experience that resides within the network as it relates to urban water management, and happy to take some questions from you later on the panel. So thank you.
Any quick question for Tom? Yeah, yes, let's go ahead. Is there a mic around or?
Hello, my name is Sanjeev. I am from Wipro Water. You talked about this water-wise cities, and in India also we are talking about smart cities. So do you have any example of any project where you are working together with Indian government or authorities?
Sorry, could you repeat that last bit?
Do you have any live example whether you are working on any project with any Indian government, say any city, Nagpur, Pune, or there are many smart cities declared in India? So are you working together with the Indian governments?
We don't currently have any partners or relationships with Indian cities. It's something that we are exploring. One of the things we've been developing over the last 12 months are what we call water-wise stories. So it's a collection of stories from various cities across the world of different sizes, of different economic development, socio-economic conditions, for example, and trying to demonstrate what those cities have done as it relates to these 17 principles. So what have they done in terms of regenerative water services? What have they done in terms of water-sensitive urban design? Some of the cities include Copenhagen, include Kampala in Uganda. We have 2 or 3 Chinese cities in there, for example. So quite a diversity of cities, and it's really trying to, in a very practical way, highlight, describe how cities are making this journey to water-wise. And we don't think water-wise is the end of a destination, let's say. It's really a journey. And that journey is determined by the city's context and the outcomes that they're working towards. But we would love to identify some Indian cities to partner with for the future.
Thank you. Yes. Can we have the mic to her? Sushmita, you want to help?
Good morning, sir. My name is Priyanjali Bose and I'm from WaterAid India. So my question to you is that urban designs are more of like controlling the natural flow of the river, and I would like to know about a take from you on riverfront development, because it's controlling the natural meandering flow of the river. So according to you, is it urban designs, in one of the principles you had mentioned about, urban design and flood risk management. So what is your take on riverfront development?
Riverfront development. See, you talked
Riverfront development.
You talked about flood management for the waterways, but people are now developing riverfronts, the riverfront development. What's your take on it? If there is?
And we're seeing riverfront development really driven by 2 things. One is flood mitigation and management, but also the other aspect that people are building in is so-called livability. So it's not just building capacity to absorb when a flood risk occurs, but it's actually creating space which can be used for recreational use as well. And I think this is a key message, I guess, is the co-benefits. So as you're thinking through solutions for flood risk, for example, what are the other benefits that could arise if you are taking certain solutions in place, let's say? So as well as looking at the mitigation of flood risks, it's looking at the livability factors that could be introduced as well.
Actually, we have time, and actually, Vinod said that he would like to also intervene to this question. I said, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you see that, the state of a river in any city define the character of the city. Okay, if all the great cities all around the world, Chicago, London, Singapore, many other cities, including the ancient Indian cities, they were defined and known by the rivers which were flowing in those cities. So the riverfront development is very important. Every city has gone through that, and it has to be integrated, as Tom said, the 3 paradigm shift. And one of the wise idea was to have integrated basin management. Yeah. So the integration of the entire supply chain within the water, and which includes the riverfront, is very important. And also, it's commercially, it makes sense to have your water kind of, the water bodies, they enhances the real estate value. So because aesthetically it increases the aesthetic of the whole thing. So riverfront development is very important, and I think there are certain cities in India, they are embarking on that. But one of the I think the drawback for the system is nobody wants to touch the real estate along with the riverfront development, because it's a controversial topic. But if you go to the Klang River in Malaysia, the people have been doing it with the real estate. So there's a strap in terms of the effort and versus the revenue for them.
Thanks, Vinod. That's the last question we'll take, and then we'll again have time later on also for discussion. So go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Hina Zia. I work with GBCI, which is known for lead brand of projects which transformed the market in terms of green buildings. My question is, for smart cities and for so-called unsmart cities in India, we are slowly seeing the urban regenerative water regenerative systems, but water-sensitive urban design is completely missing. Take the classic case of Delhi. We have just built over the entire natural drainage systems, and we are seeing all kinds of problems. So, in this kind of context, how do we sensitize the decision makers, consultants, urban planners and designers? We are taught these basic principles, but when we practice, we have completely forgotten. And here, the problems are of massive scale, but we are yet to, all said and done, but I am not seeing anything practically being done, even in Smart Cities proposal for the ABD. Do you have any examples anywhere from the world?
I think it's a good point, and it's something that we struggle with at IWAs in terms of, for example, partnering with and working with urban design institutes, other associations of architects, for example. It's really difficult to get that collaboration going. And I think that's emblematic of what it's like at the individual level. It's really difficult to get good cooperation and speak the same language. One of the examples that springs to mind is in Copenhagen. At the city level, they had funding available and a policy to bring a disparate group of professionals together, so from engineers to city officials to architects to urban planners, and they were mainly looking at cloudbursts, so sudden downpours that they have in Copenhagen and how you deal with that with infrastructure, natural infrastructure and grey infrastructure. So I think the lesson learned there, it was very top-down. It had to come from the leadership at the city level who realized that the asset base they had in terms of the professionals was very rich, but they were not collaborating together. Giving them incentives, whether it's financial incentives or other professional incentives to do that, seemed to be quite effective. So there are a few small examples I've seen, but I agree with you that it's a huge, significant challenge of just having that connection at that professional level across different sectors.
Thanks, Tom. We'll come back. Let's give Tom a big hand. Next, let's move on to Mr. Vinod Singh, who is the Vice President of CH2M Hill, and he's come from Singapore. The floor is yours, Vinod.
Thank you. So, good morning. And I think we have a quality audience here, maybe number less, but a good quality. So, the Tom talked about the three paradigm shift happening in the water sector of the entire world. So I'm going to talk about new paradigm for city infrastructure, which is water. Actually, Tom and I didn't talk through that, but I think it's just nice. What is the shift and what three paradigm shift we need in building the water infrastructure. So the past and the future, the whole water sanitations were based on the public health protections. We had a linear solutions. You use it. Grab it, use it, and throw it. Kind of very linear solutions. And there was abundance of water and energy all around. So there was no pressure for the people to come out with any solutions. And if you see our water solutions has been there since 1950s, just after World War II, and there has not been much investment has been made in this creating a new solutions. Compared to the many other sectors, water sector has been laggard in developing a new solutions. And one of the reasons was no investment has been made in after 1950s. So our solutions are 50s and 60s solutions actually. And the future is rapid urbanizations. And what is the best play to give the example other than India? As per the McKinsey study, more than 60% or more than 600 million people are going to be in the cities by 2030. So there are cities, concentration of people, demand from water, domestic, rural, and urban, industrial, and the commercial is going to create a more pressure. And compounded by, if you overlay the pollutions of the water resources, and also the conflicting demand for industries, and this domestic consumptions is going to put more pressure on this water. Of course, there's a water, energy, food nexus. We know that we need to have more water to create more energy, And then water and the food, there's a big nexus there. Climate variability, which is no more a science, it's a real. It's happening in India, it's happening in many places. Of course, water economic and pricing. So the water is highly undervalued commodity in most of the Asian cities. And that's what I think also reflected in the services the water industries provides in those other cities. And I always give the example of the cell phone. People can walk to 5 kilometers, not 5 kilometers, but over a kilometer to top of the phone connections or data charges. But they will not pay for their water fee for 3 months or 4 months or 6 months. So we need to draw some ideas and from this whole telecommunication business as well. Do we need a water? Can you use a 1 cubic of water to grow the cabbage, which value is $2 or $1 per kilo? Or we can use the same water to produce industrial output, which is a $50 a kilo. So there's a dynamics there as well, water economics, right? We have a more limited infrastructure. Most of the cities are, cramped. Somebody says, what in Delhi, what we have, how do we improve it, right? We can't put another line, not high NRW in most of the cities. And so this is the future, and then we need to overlay the new paradigm, what we need to do to overcome this. Some of the solutions I've got over here, which is IWRM, kind of building the point made by Tom, connected basins. So water is H2O molecules. It doesn't recognize the geography. It doesn't recognize the caste, creed, or any rich or poor. It's the H2O molecules. So we need to have interconnected solutions, which is IWRM solutions, circular solutions, which is use it, reuse it, and reuse it, right? Many times. Energy, nutrient, and resources recovery, diversify water sources. Most of the Indian cities, they are depending only one source of water. So if there's a climate variability impact, you find that water supply is getting impacted. So you need to bring the resiliency. And there's a good example in India. I'll share some of the examples here what we're doing that. And underground infrastructure, how do you have the Nordic technology or tunnels, micros tunnels in the cramped cities to kind of solutions. And the implementation, one of the biggest the constraint in implementing project is the right delivery model. We always talk about the good technical solutions, but we always forget to talk or develop a project delivery framework. So program management approach, which is getting kind of popular for mega projects, and help client to implement the projects. And some of the projects which is on the DMIC DC corridor, they have adopted a program management approach, and which is working very fine, and which work on behalf of the client actually. Client doesn't have much capacity, so the program manager comes in, provide a professional management. Of course, political and will and leadership, public engagement, education, one of the undervalued, the theme all over. So this is a new paradigm, new paradigm for water infrastructure, recycle, reuse. I just kind of wanted to put some the bullets there. But again, it's talk about the resiliency, building the resiliency in water sector for the cities. How do you do that? One of the good example, and all across cities will be recycle, reuse. If not for drinking, not using for non-drinking is a crime in this environment at the moment actually for Indian cities, I will tell. IWRM practice, emergence of new water technologies. Of course, there are new water technologies are emerging and the adoption of those in the context of the issues. And of course, use of smart technologies in the water sector. I'll go for recycle, reuse. So this is what I talked about. Our solution has been linear, quite old. We need to move on to the circular solutions. This is the Singapore experience. And I will not talk much about Singapore, but Singapore we have our 30% or 35% of water comes from the recycle, reuse. And we treat our used water, which is a wastewater, to drinking water standard. Most of the water used for industries because industries high demand, but some of the water goes to our reservoirs, go back into our water supply systems. We brand as a new water. So instead, to get the right connotation, instead of saying that treated sewage water, nobody will use it. So we can't call it new water. And also what we have done is a stakeholder engagement. public education outreach program, which sometimes the technical solution there, but public engagement is missing, the people don't accept it. It's kind of we have created and put an effort to make sure that there's a foster to foster the acceptance of this this kind of water. This is any utilities. The important is the water infrastructure and the three cog in the wheel, very important, and they have to run in the same directions. Strong governance and engaged communities. Normally we try to put all our emphasis on the first the bullets, but we forget on the communities and also the governance. Governance is very important to run the utilities efficiently. And this is the comes from the best practices, assessment of water sector performance. So these are the actually attributes by which you assess the performance of any water utilities. Again, leveraging Singapore experience, Singapore has been, like many other developing countries, this 40 years back. But with having this paradigm, in last 40 years, it has created to these new cities, and not only aesthetically, but also from all the three bullet point of view. When I was talking about this all attributes here. So, and how to do that? One of the things I said was H2 molecules doesn't differentiate between the various agencies, geography, and other things. So we need to have an integrated approach for effective delivery. Most of the Indian cities, you find that there is not one single agency responsible for water, sanitation, and drainage, even though it's all H2O molecules. Singapore has the same thing, but in 2000, we integrated water and sanitation department, and we will form the PUB, and that's become more effective to manage the whole water portfolio. Again, this is Singapore, the complete water cycle. So if you see that the rainwater goes to reservoirs, you have a treatment of raw water, it goes to the people and industries, water get collected, used water, then earlier it used to be sent to the sea, the treated wastewater or used water. Now we started reclaiming the used water, and again it's again going to the population industries, and we have created another fourth tap, we call it, the desalinations, which supply the desalinated water to the industries and or the people. So there's a fourth tap. This is how do you build this resiliency? Is having a diversified water portfolio, same like our investment portfolio. We don't want to put all our egg in one basket. So we have a 4 water portfolio or water sources: imported water from Malaysia, new water, which is a recycled reused water, and desalinated water, which is a desal water, and the first is a local catchment. We get plenty of rain, the rain as high as in Mumbai, but we do not have enough water storage in only 700 square kilometer. So what we do is we just store water as soon as we can, and also as soon as we can use it. So we can use the storage many times. So that provides around 10% of our demand, the local catchment sources. Again, the new water, I just go to the recycle, reuse, not other the sources. So this thing started in somewhere in 1999 actually, when there was some pressure from Malaysia, and Singapore wanted to become independent. And the Singapore's the main theme or the slogan is collect every drop of used water and use it many times. So these are our wastewater system. Actually, this is old now. We are working on to have only 3 wastewater, which is a Changi WRP, and there's Tuas WRP on the west side, which we are the consultant, and the one will be the Kranji. So there will be 3 wastewater system in Singapore, and it will have on that, we'll have a new water system to treat water to drinking water standard. And we have one water main actually, 2-meter diameter, one new water main, all around the island. So we can produce the new water anywhere, send it to anywhere, and use it anywhere. So that's the whole concept we have adopted that. So this is a multi-barrier system. The treated used water goes to the micro ultrafiltration, and also Now we are kind of combining that, the whole wastewater treatment in the MBR. Instead of MF and UF, it goes to RO and then UV. It's a multi-barrier system. It leads to the drinking water quality. So again, doesn't start from in the day one. I mean, the whole Singapore thing has started in 1966. Of course, it started main focus and intense focus started in 98, and this was a journey. So at the moment, we have more than 35% of water coming from this new water concept, new water sources, and these are the plants in Singapore. Actually, on the 4 locations, there are 6 plants. These are the use for the indirect potable use, reservoir recharge, and use for drinking. So there's an indirect use, it doesn't directly goes to the system, and it's around 3 to 5%. Again, non-potable use or non-drinking use, those are wafer fab, power station, air con cooling, landscaping, and few etc. there. Public education and outreach programs. This is very important. If you do not bring the people to your, with your journey, people may not accept it. So we had gone through the entire program of, making or fostering the acceptance of this new water in a very structured way. So this is our ex-prime minister. At that time, he was a prime minister, drinking the water in the whole media, in front of media. That kind of gave the confidence to people. Again, using the right context, terminology, and communication, which we are promoting from last 5 years in India. In fact, we had given to Niti Aayog right lexicon to be used for in the water sector. If we call the sewerage, I mean, engineers are actually culprit. If we call the sewerage wastewater, people have a different connotation. But if we call them if you use a term called used water, so people will have a different connotation. So we are trying to promote, wherever we are working, used water, not a sewerage, new water, and not call it treated sewage. People will not be using it. I mean, I was a bit baffled when in Mumbai last year, they were using all kind of treated sewage water, treated wastewater, sewerage, treated water, those kind of things. So again, this is engage with the stakeholders and very intensely and the focus and structure way. This is what we created apart from the whole technology in new water visitor centers, where we bring the people from all ages and kind of educate them how the water gets produced and how it's unharmful to use H2O molecules. And we have a technology to get our H2O molecules back from any type of the water. So some of those, like the media, you also need to get the media along with you in the journey. So we took them to the various plants and the various establishment, show them and talk through them how it works and how safe is. This was 2 years study. It was done and how the water is safe. So I'll go to a few other slides. So IWRM, which is the Integrated Water Resource Management, and which we have used on the DMIC DC project to create water when the earlier solution, proposed solution, was unreliable. And this was it was very successful. And the DMIC DC is going ahead with this 2 program in Haryana and Rajasthan. The smart technologies. What's emerging technology in the water sectors are, there are many actually, but what we are using at the moment, which can be taken to many other projects, is the ceramic membrane. At the moment, we call it polymer or plastic membranes, they have certain limitations. But ceramic membranes can overcome those limitations. High capital cost, low OPEX, life cycle cost is kind of good, but you require a more sophisticated client. Nanofiltrations, mangrove plant to convert the seawater into the waste freshwater, energy and resources recovery, various technology, various framework. Of course, biomimic technology, which is coming up, kind of mimicking the entire our biology function. And the industrial ecology, what Tom was talking about, using the solid waste and the liquid waste, can we compost together? We are using the plant in the towards wastewater. We call it industrial. There's 2 plants are situated next to each other, and there's a seamless transfer of various utilities along these two systems. This is the last 2 slides, the smart technologies and framework. And if you believe or not, entire industry is changing. And there's a beautiful fusion of physical, digital, and biological knowledge. 4th industrial revolution is in play. And if we just overlook it, the whole water industry is going to be drowned with the low technology. And so there's the whole water smart or smart cities and smart water, which is kind of at the moment at the nascent stage, because this is a vendor-driven solution at the moment. What we need to have some kind of integration so that people and the client can understand what they can implement it. And this is going to, take a more speed as we go along, because sensor hardware communication costs are falling rapidly. The baby boomers are getting out of the retiring, so we need to create the knowledge in the machine or the people or the young people. There's a demand for services more intensive from the people. Digital natives, they are going to drive crazy, this utility people, because they have been brought in the last 16 years in a very instant gratification kind of environment. If the utilities do not provide those solutions, they will have issues. The data analytics, big data, this is going to play a big part, and the people are some places using it. 6D for the planning, design, construction, operations. How do you build your plants, build your the systems before it gets to the actual construction for the client to view? It goes on. List goes on. But these are the technologies which are going to drive the paradigm shift in our water industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vinod Singh. Any quick questions for him? One or two? Yes. You can start first. Behind. Okay, if you got the mic, just go ahead. No, go ahead. Just ask your question. Yeah. Can you give her the mic, the other one also? Go ahead.
Hello, Sanjeev Srivastava from Wipro Water again. Sir, thanks. Very nice presentation from you, and it was quite learning. Rather than asking a question, may I request you to support India on certain thing? Like we are already talking to Niti Aayog. And one of the challenge which I have seen in my career of last 10 years, a lot of builders, architects and mega construction companies, they want to use recycled water. But they say the network itself is not available. The places where they start construction, there is no water line nearby. So what they do is that they buy local water from some local tankers and they try to recycle themselves. But government from their side, like any kind of governments, have never proposed a kind of recycle water network which can be used as construction water. Thank you.
I think it's a good question. Actually, in India, there's a both sides actually. There's a demand, a huge demand, but at the same time, there's supply is available, but invisible supply. What you need is a platform to create a demand with the supply. You are absolutely right. Like in Gurgaon also, right? The people are looking for contractors are looking for water. There's no water actually. There's a ban some water using groundwater. But what you need, as Tom pointed out, is a vision document for the cities and for the areas. And most of our projects here are ad hoc driven. I need this one, just to start putting it, because there is no overall planning. Like what we are doing, I'll give the example. In Bangalore, we convinced the BWSSB to go for a comprehensive planning for the 30 years, and where all this comes in picture. We put all the jigsaw at the various places. As they implement it, they will become more water sustainable and self-sufficient. And recycle water for the contractors, maybe could be one solution and topic where how do you create that? Of course, you need to create, any investor has to be a sustainable demand, right? So yeah, so we are talking to Niti Aayog. In fact, we had a few workshops on them. Singapore and the Niti Aayog G2G, 4 workshops and we have written a recycle reuse framework paper. I will send it to you, how it applies to India, not in a very Singapore or European or US context, very, very typically how it applies to India. So we have written one, develop a framework for that actually.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry but it's an irony that we were known as the most hydraulic society before Britishers came to us. They couldn't understand what we did and just spoiled everything. We could catch even 100 mm of annual rain, every drop of the rain in the most arid region, and we still have existing examples in Gujarat and Rajasthan, which is unfortunately dying. So that's a different story. Now when Singapore started, you have shown you took us back to history and again to future as well, that how it's all about vision. But what I could realize is, you correct me, it's all top down. So the most, in all this scenario, political will was and is the most single important factor which we lack currently. And when you started, I mean, Singapore started in 60s and 70s, and they had similar financial problems. So how that bridge was overcome? And second, I have a quick comment on the smart technologies, integration, etc. Can you please contextualize in the current Indian cities and town scenario where we do not even have money to pay the salaries of a staff, where do we bring the capex, even if we have taken the loan and bring the capex on board, how do we maintain and sustain it?
So, you have a long question, my short answers. First thing is that the Singapore context is absolutely top-down. And we always debate, I'm going to the bit politics, Singapore democracy is not like any Western democracy. Our democracy is for the region and what is best suited to Singapore. Indian democracy is a very vibrant democracy. And, and you have a political will actually. Who decides the political will? People. If the people do not vote for the parties or the government who doesn't care for water, ecology or sustainability or the environment, they will not come into power, right? So it's all boils down to people. In fact, I stopped talking about a political will because I am attending the conference in India last 7 years. We talk about everything at the end, last boils down to we do not have a political will. So the entire whole concept of 2 hours is gone to waste. So I think maybe I will request organizers here to next time have one conference, how to create a political will. We have a solution actually. So whatever we do actually in the project, I mean, we are a consultant. We are doing in the Bangalore, the similar stuff. How we are also making sure that there is a political will for the implementation as well. Everybody want to meet their unmet need. Politicians, the unmet need is how do we create the environment where the people vote for them. So we need to create that. We need to identify their requirement as well. That was how do you fund for the Singapore? I mean, this was a very long topic, but how do we do it in India? You should come to one of the workshop in Bangalore. We are developing an entire 360-degree strategic master plan for Bangalore, not from technical perspective, right from the financial perspective as well. How do you get a private sector get enticed to invest in that particular projects? Private sector will not. We need to first recognize what are the issues and challenges, and then we create environment for the various people to come in and invest. Private sector will come in when there is a revenue stream for them, there is a profit for them. They will not come for charity. So we need to create that. But what we do not to create is not a very hefty profit for the private sector. So I mean, we are doing for the Bangalore. We'll see these changes right from the finance perspective, and of course there will be technical and the strategic perspective as well. So one of the utilities, we find that most of the utilities always they are under the debt, huge debt. And what happens after 2 years, the state government or central government underwrite it. But because they are under a huge debt, the credit rating is so low. But every 2 years, somebody is underwriting it. Why don't you underwrite to start with? So the credit rate will go up. If somebody wants to give free water to some cities by utilities, state government should underwrite a check to that utility to run that utility effectively. Because state government had decided that they want to give their citizens or the residents a free water. But you cannot get the utilities, a small utility, to subsidize that free water. So these are the concept. This has to be enforced. Otherwise, all the water utilities continue to be running in a vicious circle of not providing good services, and financially they will be under debt and very low credit rating. Not many people will be willing to finance their, underwrite their debt.
Thanks, Vinod. It was a good question. I think, yeah, you answered it well. And I think if you have time again in the discussion we can come back to some of the points which you raised. One last question I see if you want to ask, sir. Go ahead.
Myself, Sanjay Shrivastava from Kripko Shyam Fertilizers. Sir, we are utilizing the water for the green belt, whatever is coming out of the industry, and it is quantity is too much high, 5,000 meter cube per day. So that we want to reuse as a potable water. You said you are in contact, your association is in contact with Government of India also, coming out with some framework for this sort of thing. So we are also interested with technology and total economics so that we get the benefit. Some planning, some scheme is there from your side. At the same time, I'll be interested knowing ceramic membrane, nanofiltration and biomimic. You did not explain, and I will request, because till now we have not discussed this, only we talked about the urban, not village and not even industry. So it is our question from industry side here.
Thank you. I think as a chair, I'll intervene is that our next speaker with knowledge is going to be talking a bit, I think, with the rural part. So let's listen to her. Vinod, I think if you can, we can do it in the discussion.
Industrial part I'll cover in the in the discussion.
Yeah.
We are doing with MIDC. I'll explain you what we are doing with the MIDC, Maharashtra Industrial Estate Corporation, ZLD things during the panel discussion.
No, and actually also it's not promoting CH2M Hill, but they also have a stall. Maybe after the session, you can also go down to their stall and even others. But I think your question is very valid. I'm not dismissing it. What I will do is that we'll just hold it and any other question till our next speaker talks, and then we have 15-20 minutes, and then maybe we can get some answers from all three of them. Is it okay? Yeah, thanks. Without further ado, we get the best for the last, as they say. Miss Chandra Ganapathy, she is the head of knowledge management, WaterAid, which is one of the biggest global NGOs in water supply and sanitation, based in London. She's been with the India office for more than 22 years. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you. WaterAid, as the chair introduced, we are here since 1981. We are across 37 countries in the globe. And India, we are completed just last year of 30 years of services. We are an NGO, as you asked about. We work both in the rural and urban context. We come from people's perspective. What are people's needs? Like we talk about water, its value, its economic value. We come from water as a lifeline. Water which sustains lives, which develops lives, which grows life. We come from that perspective. And we work with people, building, learning from their perspective. And we also work at larger water governance, starting from local government to national government. Our big picture is water governance, ensuring the water rights of the people. But we also work with the people, building their capacities, building their knowledge, building their abilities to cope with life. Our goal is everyone, everywhere by 2030, ensuring safe and sustainable access to water. What does it mean? The water is not something that the central government from here will come and deliver it to the people in the rural context or urban context. It is securing, enabling people, empowering them, educating them, and skilling them to secure their own water. How do you prioritize? Water, in the recent national policy on water, the draft version, called we are all stewards of water. Nobody is a owner and everybody is a owner of water. Water is a public resource. It is not a commodity which, whether it comes to cabbage or to an economic product of $50, cabbage will take a predominance to survive lives. So we work from that context. Our approach is securing drinking water, particularly for the most marginalized, from competing other demands. While other demands will be predominant, we'll have to work on them. How do we secure the water for drinking, for lives at the local context? What do people do? What do governments do? That has been our approach. And water is in its entirety, in its entire life cycle, as he rightly said, its core value is H2O molecules. So how do we see water? Our approach is securing water, drinking water, and addressing its entire cycle, reusing, recycling water, so that water as a resource is secured for the people. It is put to its maximum use. My colleague Puneet is sitting there. We are working on a transdisciplinary water security. And he just said, water, when we talk of water security, it is not just water as a resource, but gender plays a role. And the multiple users of water play a role. Even within a household, a husband running an irrigation, his priority need is on irrigation, and the women's priority is on collecting water. We are promoting sanitation. The women's workload increases. She has to collect everybody to use water sanitation facilities also. Our focus is bringing these balances within the families, within the communities, within the larger setups. How do we promote water security as a people-led, community-led, government-led an approach where every need, India is growing, its businesses, its industries, its commerce is growing. So do India's population and its need for the lifeline water. How do we balance when we go into smart cities and what will be our approach to it? How does water play a role in city planning? Is it water assessment? Smart cities come up with their own industries, business houses. How do we secure water for its people and for its growing businesses? That has been the call that we are working on. We recognize that while we are independent, we play directly with the community, work with the local governments. We also recognize the larger role of the private sector and the government, and that they are the major players. We work along with them. We influence that smart cities are inclusive, recognizing the poor people and their need for water. That it is not just driven by the economic value that the cities bring back to the government or the country, but the poor people's lives also matter within its planning. Like within the small city, how do we plan? Like Mr. Manish said very clearly that we use the same water for all the purposes. Every business process, every operational systems do not require the same quality of water. But we go with a one-point solution, supply the rare fresh water source to address all needs. And I have heard of presentations in the past workshops where in Chennai Metro there are examples of the industries buying wastewater from Chennai Metro, buying, and they are mandated to buy also. When industrial permissions come up, they also buy wastewater to recycle and use it in other operations where absolute safe water is not needed, or as he said, new water or other forms of usage water can be used. So this is, while we work with the people and while we cannot negate the growing dynamics of the growth of the country, how do we constantly keep people in mind and their water security in mind, and how do we grow further? This is all my presentation here today, to constantly keep people's need and the lifeline water requirement in mind. Thank you.
Any questions? If not,
Sir, may I ask? Or
okay, short one. Please go ahead. If it's
not
a complicated one like for the last speaker. Just a quick, because then.
You had worked. The most important part of your work which is commendable, is working with the communities. And as you mentioned in the smart cities engagement, do you have any example where by doing the engagement where citizens from the marginalized section, I mean slums and informal settlements, have raised their voice that this is my concern, please integrate in the smart city initiative, etc. Because whatever I have seen, I have not come across any such thing. My lack of knowledge, so maybe I would like to hear.
I would say yes, may not be at a city-wide or a district-wide context. In the communities we have been working, citizens have very clearly articulated their demand. What is that we want? In terms of we want a stand post for every household, and we want water supplied during these hours and not at any hour that you want. We want water to be supplied from 6 to 8 in the morning and not at the midnight. So these demands have been expressed and realized also.
Thank you. If you don't have any question now, you can keep thinking, but I'll come back to, as I promised, to our friend from Kripco, his question. Any short answers from Tom? You want to say something, and then I'll come back to Mr. Vinod Singh.
Sure. So focusing a bit on the industry aspect, which I think was missing from some of our presentations, and thinking about it in two terms. One, philosophically, and then second, maybe more practically on the technologies. I think what we're seeing philosophically is that industry has started to understand its relationship with water. And the way we need to start thinking about it is very much associated to the circular economy. And within that, how do you decouple productivity from consumption and from pollution? So you can still be productive as an industry, but you don't have to abstract as much water, and you don't need to pollute. Closed loop systems, reuse, etc., etc. That's a long-term discourse, let's say, that's going on, and it's just at the beginning. There's a few leading examples in the industry who are practicing that philosophy, but I think there is still some work to do to sensitize industry to understanding the value of water and understand how they can increase productivity but not necessarily use more water or pollute more water. On the more practice technology side, what we're seeing in IWA is many of our members who are technology providers, for example, have increasing demand from industry vis-a-vis municipal clients, which is quite a saturated market. So there's an increasing interest in the industrial market. Within IWA, we have many different kinds of members offering different products and services. So I think once the philosophical side is more mature, I think that demand will increase tenfold. And I think many of IWA's members will be interested in meeting that demand from industry when it happens.
Thanks, Tom. Quick, any comment, Vinod? We have already said that they will visit your stall later, but to the plenary, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I think the industrial sector is, the water consumptions as well as the pollutions, they're very interrelated. And we are doing work with the MIDC, their whole industrial area, where we find that, and in fact, we work with many other, the industry, the individual industry for ZLD as such. And it's becoming not only from the pollution requirement as well, but also kind of building the resiliency within your system. So we have some solutions and we are working. Please visit. And there's my colleague there. She can help you. She's leading our MIDC things here. All right, thanks.
Yeah. And my intervention is only this to you that, there are other technology, companies, there are other consultants, venues, you can also go and meet them. Same way, if you ever want to have a discussion with IWA, Sushmita can give you her card, and I think these are the good things about this conference. Is not only one way talking about presentations, but actually how do different groups, different technology providers, policy come together. So I think that your question is a very interesting, bigger question, but I think the start can happen with some of the people that you have met here, and we can continue. Coming back, if there is no question in the audience, I am taking questions more. So yes, please go ahead. One minute. Can you speak in the mic, please?
My one question from Mr. Vinod Singh. I would know what is the cost of production to make used water for reuse in comparison to the fresh water. There is a huge cost difference or nominal cost difference. Cost of the production to make a used water for reused as a industrial purpose or drinking water or process water in comparison to the fresh water available for a industry, for a commodity, for anyone. If there is a huge difference, then it will be no doubtly to adopt any industry to treat this water, used water, for a reuse.
Yeah, quick.
So actually the cost is very relative. The cost, even if I'm ready to pay $100 for a bottle of water on moon, because there is no alternate source, right? But if I'm there in somewhere with plenty of water, I will not pay more than 10 cents for that. So again, it's a relative cost. But giving you the absolute number, which we have been working on several projects here, if you have used water, which is a secondary treated or biological treated waste water, and want to convert for industrial use, you don't require membranes, you require a simple, the systems, it will be less than 10 rupees to 12 rupees per kiloliter, the cost. And of course, it depends on also what bells and whistles you want, and the pipeline and those kind of things. But it should not be. But if you want to convert to drinking, again, it's reliability. If you have a lot of ammonia in it and few other things which require the exerting plant systems, the cost will go up. But it should not be more than 10 to 15 rupees per kiloliter. I'm talking for industrial water application. I'm talking about.
This is the fact. This is the fact why industry is not going to adopt this reusing of used water, because we are paying 35 to 40 paise per meter cube of cess to the UP government to take the water from the underground. But we are going to treat this used water as for using a process water or a cooling tower makeup water. It will cost rupees 10 per meter cube per hour. So there is huge difference. The economics not come in a range. If a technology maybe in a future developed, the cost of both, or we increase the government cost of the cess of the underground water or the or the river water cess which the industry are paying for it.
Quick one on that one. The use of groundwater for 30-40 paise, you say, right?
Yes, yes.
Is I'm not sure is a compliant to the UP government policy.
Yes,
I'll
yes.
give example. He comes from Bangkok. Bangkok was sinking because the water table was falling down.
Yes, yes.
BMA came out with the regulations for the regulating the whole groundwater use. Every cities will come out and they are coming out with that. So that cheap water will not remain available. So you need to go for the next water. And next water is surface water or river water. How reliable is that? If not, then you have to go for next cost of water, which is the recycled water. Again, you need to decide your strategy with respect to the reliability and cost and your convenience. So everybody has their own way, looking at it.
Okay, thank you.
But the last question, I think your point is very well, sir, and I think that needs a whole 2-hour discussion in the sense, I would have liked to have this point, what you just said, as a 2-hour session, because you really touched the sore point, or the main point, by saying that if water is so cheap to an industry, at the first place, why is the industry going to really invest in doing anything? I mean, that's the fundamental question where we all are saying, is that the answer for India's future? Okay, or anybody's? And as he rightly said, where it is a scarcity, obviously these things are moving ahead. And when you ask Singapore, I'm not going to take the limelight away from Vinod, but Singapore, we also have an office. Let me put one thing very clear. Singapore, when the Prime Minister, the vision for water was not for water, and Vinod will agree with me, it was from a security point of view. They were 100% dependent on Malaysia, and they didn't want that to happen. So that's again a whole different discussion on how we look at water from the security perspective. And therefore, I think these are very interesting things that get left out when we also sometimes look at models or when we're looking at processes. So as all the three speakers have said, we have to integrate it and look at it, what is it from the different angles, the resource, the politics, the technology, and sometimes we just look at certain examples from only the beauty point of it and from the face value of it. But there are a lot of other things which I think this audience, as you said, smart audience, smart cities, we had very good discussions in terms of questions. There is never enough time. But I think I like one question last without leaving the room is for actually Ma'am Ganapathy, is that we again didn't touch much on the rural part, the sanitation, and when we talk about urban-rural industry, in India when you're talking about smart cities, sanitation is one of the big aspects, but you cannot do sanitation without water, because if you go around the country today, we are all running to meet the targets of building the toilets, but if there is no water, nobody is going to use that toilet. Is WaterAid or anything you want to highlight from that aspect, that unless you integrate the water with because India, I think we are still not working toward the Stockholm or the Scandinavian dry toilets. We are not looking at that. And the last thing I'll say, and that's also my comments as chairman, is today Ladakh is trying to do a whole new sanitation plan where they forget that dry toilets were part of Ladakh. And when I had discussions with some of those people from the Ladakh point, they are not looking at dry toilets at all. So I think that is the real, again, heart, as my friend talked about the question of 30 paisa versus 10 rupees a liter. If in Ladakh, where for traditions, they always had, it's a dry desert, they had dry toilets, and if the modern smart city plan has only a flush as part of the sanitation program, then I think we are going round and round and we are going in for a bigger disaster instead of lauding the whole smart city concept. I think that, as a chairman, my views I would like to put in the end and give it to you, ma'am, as the last comment on that.
Yes, that is a critical point that we are working on also. That water, not only without access to water, toilet usage is not happening. Water is like if toilets are 100% and usage is only 40%, the main reason is lack of water. So without adequate water, toilet usage will not happen. Toilet building infrastructure may happen. And then again, the burden of collecting water falls on women alone. So their drudgery increases. And also they increasing the water flush toilets. In most part of the high water table areas, we are contaminating the groundwater also. So these are the three complexities that is working on. And WaterAid, while promoting eco-sun toilets in the high water table areas, we are also working with government MDWS to promote different technologies as part of this program. That we have supported them with a study on what works, what doesn't work on the ground. And we are also helping them to communicate different models to the people as part of their strategy.
As an Indian, I'll stick to my promise. I will not say a further word, except let's give the three panelists a big hand and all to all of you. Thank you. And I may hand over to the organizers, please.
Thank you all for your valuable thoughts and a knowledgeable presentation. I would like to request our chairperson, Mr. Ganesh Ganapathy, to present the mementos to our speakers on the dais. Mr. Tom Williams. Yes. Mr. Vinod Singh. Ms. Chandra Ganapathy. Now, may I request Ms. Pallavi from Exhibition India to present a memento to our chairperson, Mr. Ganesh Ganapathy. That's the conclusion of the session. We'll see you after a short tea break of 15 minutes. Thank you.